There are 3 rules to name the cations. Rule number 1 and rule number 2 are used to name simple cations, and rule number 3 is used to name polyatomic cations. When we name simple cations of non-transition metals and hydrogen, we need to use rule number 1. The name includes 2 different parts. The first part is the element name. The second part is the word ion, I-O-N. When we name simple cations of transition metals, the name includes 3 different parts. The first part is the element name. The second part is a parenthesis, and within the parenthesis is a Roman numeral which indicates the charge of the ion. And the third part is ion, ion. When we name simple cations of transition metals and simple cations of non-transition metals and hydrogen, the only difference is the part in the middle. When we name simple cations of transition metals, we have the part in the middle. When we name simple cations of non-transition metals and hydrogen, we do not include the part in the middle. We only have 2 parts. And there are exceptions for both rule number 1 and rule number 2. The exceptions for rule number 1 are the ions of tin and lead. Both tin and lead have 2 ions with different charges. There are a few exceptions for rule number 2 as well. The exceptions are zinc ion, silver ion, cadmium ion, and tungsten ion. Although they are transition metals, but each element only forms one kind of ion. Therefore, we do not need a Roman numeral in their name to distinguish different ions of the same element. When we name polyatomic cations, we need to use rule number 3. Generally, the polyatomic cations, their name will end with IUM. For example, for NH4+, the name is ammonium ion. For H3O+, the name is hydronium ion. But since these 2 polyatomic cations are the only cations you will encounter in this class, even if you don't remember the rule, as long as you remember the names of these 2 ions, you should be fine. Now let me use the periodic table to explain rule number 1 and rule number 2 again. You may have already noticed I circled several elements in this periodic table. The elements I circled are called metalloids. We also call them semimetals. On the left side of the metalloids are metals, and on the right side of the metalloids are nonmetals. Hydrogen is a nonmetal. Simple cations are formed by metals and hydrogen. Depending on the metals that form the simple cations, we will name them in a slightly different way. If the simple cations are formed by transition metals, the name includes 3 different parts, which is rule number 2. And if the simple cations are formed by non-transition metals, the name includes 2 different parts, which is rule number 1. And there are 2 exceptions, or to be more precisely, I probably should say there are 4 exceptions for rule number 1. Because tin has 2 different ions and lead has 2 different ions. If you count the number of ions as the exceptions to rule number 1, there are 4 exceptions. But if you count the number of elements as the exceptions, there are only 2 exceptions to rule number 1. There are 4 exceptions for rule number 2: zinc, silver, cadmium, and tungsten. Now let me use several examples to show you how to use these rules to name the cations. The first example is Ba2+. Let's look at the periodic table. Here is Ba, a non-transition metal. Therefore, we will use rule number 1 to name this ion. The name will be the element name plus ion. The name of Ba2+ is barium ion. Let's look at example 2, Zn2+. Here is Zn, a transition metal. We should use rule number 2. However, when we look at the exceptions to rule number 2, zinc 2 plus is one of them. We need to follow rule number 1 to name the zinc 2 plus, which should include 2 parts. The first part is the element name. The second part is ion. Therefore, the name is zinc ion. Let's look at the next example, Pb 4 plus. Pb is a non-transition metal. Therefore, we should follow rule number 1. However, when we look at the exceptions to rule number 1, lead is one of them. Therefore, when we name lead 4 plus, we need to follow rule number 2. The name should include 3 parts. Element name plus a parenthesis with a Roman numeral inside the parenthesis plus ion. This is the name of Pb 4 plus. Lead parenthesis 4 ion. Please pay attention. There's no space between lead and the parenthesis. NH4 plus. This is a polyatomic ion. We need to use rule number 3. As I mentioned, we need to remember the name of NH4 plus and H3O plus. NH4 plus is called ammonium ion. One more example, E, H plus. When we name simple cations of non-transition metals and hydrogen, we need to use rule number 1. We should include the element name and ion. Therefore, H plus is called hydrogen ion. One more example, V4 plus. V is a transition metal. Therefore, we need to use rule number 2 to name the ion of V4 plus. It should include 1, 2, 3 parts. Element name, parenthesis, a Roman numeral inside the parenthesis, ion. Therefore, the name of this ion is vanadium parenthesis 4 ion. Make sure you spell the element name correctly.